Rapala Bassmaster Fantasy Fishing, Lake St. Clair. I'm barely in the dark green, brother. 75.5%. Not been a great year for Rapala for me. My heart's just not been in it. My heart's just not been in it. That's my excuse. My heart's, yeah, I'm just not trying to pick the same guys every time. And I try to always be different, but like my heart's just not in it right now. So,
It's definitely a risky play. Like it definitely when you try to go out there and make unique picks, because I try to do the same thing. Like if I'm writing a fantasy column, if I just took, theoretically, if I just took the highest angler in every single bucket, it's like, well, that's not, I'm just going with the crowd. And sometimes that's certainly
we're
the
not
way you
teaching
have
them
to
anything.
play.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
certainly sometimes that's the best route. Like, but when you try to venture out, it either goes really well or really poorly. And definitely it can go both ways.
I mean, I remember saying, yeah, I'm going to pick this guy because he's just so excellent with his electronics. And now everyone's been good with their electronics before, but it was a different kind of good with your electronics back in the day. But now that it's forward facing sonars, that's what are you good with your electronics there? No one's asking Kyle when they say, hey, are you proficient with your electronics? Yeah, man, I can side scan the heck out of them. That's not what we're talking about anymore. We're not asking about that. Everyone is so proficient. You're just you're trying to pick the best of the best. And I mean, there's five or six that come to mind that are very proficient with it, better than the rest. But it's still you got to find the right area. You got to have a little bit of luck where you don't have mechanical issues. You know, all those different things that come into play. So I've got some proficient scopers, as they would say, but we'll see if they land on the pile or if they can get in on the pile if everyone else has landed on them. So let's go A through E, and then we'll break it down. So A through E for me, I got Shane LeHew, Robert G, David Mullins, Cody Huff, and Paul Mueller. So LeHew, G, Mullins, Huff, Mueller for my five.
Me and you do not agree on a single pick. Not that I think any of those picks you made are bad by any means, but I'm going bucket A, Jay Securit, bucket B, Luke Palmer, bucket C, Joey Cifuentes, bucket D, Jacob Foutz, bucket E, Jonathan Kelley.
One more
That's
time.
correct. Jay Securit, Luke Palmer, Joey Cifuentes, Jacob Foutz, and Jonathan Kelley.
Okay, so you picked all the previous winners that are in our field. Good job. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's smart.
So
And some of
here's
those
my
guys need
deal.
it for different reasons. You know, Joey was on cloud nine when he won the 2023 elite here, but Joey needs it for a different reason this time around. You know, it's just a different. It's crazy the circumstances maybe.
So for me, I'll break it down real quick. Bucket A, Jay Securit. I've been riding with Jay Securit since like the second event of the year. And Bucket A certainly doesn't hurt that he is a fantastic smallmouth fisherman. Obviously, won the Open there a year ago. A lot of things go to his favor, but in that one, I don't feel bad because I've made the promise on my fantasy columns like 5 tournaments ago that I was going to pick
He's your new
him.
Walters. Yeah.
And Tommy Sanders even called it out in during one of the tournaments. So now I have to stick to it because he's put it out there in the world for everybody to know. So Jay Securit probably going to stick to my roster for the last two, and Luke Palmer
Well,
obviously. I
hold on,
think
and I'll go my bucket eight. You know, we'll go
yeah
back and
yeah
forth now.
yeah.
I think LeHew is one of the most underrated shallow water scopers, or electronics guys that we have. Every time we go to the St. Lawrence and they're out in the lake, they're not the deepest group of fish compared to other guys we see. He's doing multiple, techniques at times in those areas. He's so stoic and quiet that he kind of sneaks up on you're like, oh man, like he's actually like really good with this. Well, there is not a thing that Shane LeHew in my time and knowing him since 2011 is bad at. He's good or will get good at everything.
Sure.
And from Tennessee River to Skipping Docks to all three species to now the Great Lakes, one of the best track records on smallmouth fisheries, whether it's Champlain, St. Lawrence, St. Clair, that we have. And so I just think shallow. If I'm thinking of the best area in the past history has been Anchor Bay, which is the shallowest area on a shallow fishery and the type of technology they may utilize to be efficient around there. I have to go with LeHew, and that's a 0.7% selection, but this bucket with Chris Johnston and Jay Shakira in there, and Trey McKinney, the top three in AOY are just, and then Taku, another double digit percentage person. Um, they consume, what is that, 42? That's 670. That's 85% from those four guys. 85% from those four guys. So everyone else is going to be underrated. If you included Kyoya, it's it's five guys for 93%. So everyone other than those five is going to be underrated. So LeHew is my bucket A pick. Been doing very well this year.
I like it. I like it. And then we're both going lower percentage in bucket B. Obviously, you have Corey Johnston taking up 42.3%, Easton Fothergill at 24%. Let's see. I mean, that's a majority of it. Seth Feider, 10.2. But I'm going
Coop
Luke
at
Palmer.
11.
Yeah, missed him. But I'm going Luke Palmer. Obviously, second place finish here 2 years ago. I think a lot of my picks are more based on the fact that they're just really good smallmouth fishermen, like irregardless of where we're at. Luke Palmer, obviously one of those guys that over just the last 2 or 3 years, I think has went from being, I wouldn't say poor at that, specific technique or fishing for northern smallmouth, but has gotten so good, obviously extremely good with his forward-facing sonar. It's hard to imagine that Luke Palmer would have a bad event. Not saying he's going to finish second again, but I'm taking that one as kind of my risk, I guess, based on percentages. Easton Fothergill has already been noted that I did not pick him in bucket B, and last time that happened, he top 10'd it. So use that information how you will. It seems like he does not like when I don't pick him in whatever bucket he's in, and again, he was not thrilled about it. So we'll see. But Luke Palmer, bucket B is going to be my pick, but certainly plenty of smallmouth hammers in bucket B, along with your pick, Robert G.
Yeah, I think that man, we hadn't had Robert G all year, and he's barely inside the classic line right now. But we haven't had Robert G on camera all year, and I think he was on camera like 13 days last year, his rookie year. So I expect Robert G to catch him this week. I expect him to be a factor this week. And so not only am I picking him on my team, I think he will make the top 10. We obviously are trying to pick anglers that make top 10s and do well for sure. But I definitely have, of my picks, Robert G is the one that I'm willing to put a stamp on that would be shocked if he didn't catch him here and really have high expectations for him to do well here. So it's only a matter of time for him to pop back up in what's been a whatever type of season. And so, with this being the most electronics type heavy tournament we've had in a while, um, give me some Robert G and then some when it comes to that. Less about smallmouth and more just about electronics for me with him. And
Sure.
but then I've got two other guys that are specifically smallmouth, that are in my other picks, from C down. So
I like it. I like it. So, moving down to bucket C, and to your point, I mean, there's no hiding it. I mean, there's no way around it. I mean, this is the one tournament on the schedule before the season ever even happened that you looked at and you thought, forward-facing snipers, if you will, if that's what you want to call them. This is certainly the place for them. Obviously, based on the way that the smallmouth at St. Clair set up. We've heard Mark Zona talk about it for years and years and years, how so many of these smallmouth on this fishery are nomadic. They swim around a lot. Those are notoriously going to be smallmouth that are much more easy to or much easier to catch with your forward-facing sonar. We've seen that play out, like you said. Bill Weidler's win, I think, was one of the coming out parties, if you will, for forward-facing sonar. I wouldn't say it was like the first tournament by any means that
this is the
but it was kind of the tournament that swayed how people smallmouth fished, it seemed, moving forward. So certainly going to be a forward-facing tournament, no doubt.
this is the location where a lot of guys, no matter what brand you were affiliated with, put one on for this tournament. And either got in trouble, broke ties, whatever. But this was of the 2020 season. We want to think about Patrick Walters in the fall at Fork and what he did. Yes, this was the one where we had a break and people all showed up with different technology on their boat because they knew it was going to be a deal. And
For
so,
sure.
yeah, interesting, the way it went down there. I will say before we leave Bucket B, Emil Wagner was a tempting pick for me. In my preseason article with you, I said that the highest rookie, because I did it differently and didn't listen to your instructions because I don't care about your opinion and your instructions. So I did it differently. But I said that Emil Wagner would be the highest finishing rookie at this event back in my predictions. And it would, at the same time, it's probably going to be his highest finishing event of the season. He got ninth at Hartwell. Very likely that we could break that and he could actually, like, we could follow through, him get a top 10 and beat his Hartwell and be the highest rookie. So I'm confident in Emil smallmouth fishing that it could go down for him in bucket B too. So two of the two guys I had my eye on in bucket B specifically. So let's go into bucket C though, where I this is one of my smallmouth guys, and you'll see some East Tennessee flair with Robert G in this next pick. But I got David Mullins for my team. Um, Less about electronics, even though he is very good with his electronics. He may be quiet about it, and people may not, he's not as assuming that he's good with them. He is excellent with it, and fishing for nomadic smallmouth, you know, it doesn't matter if you're fishing in an East Tennessee lake necessarily and there's a bunch of contours. If the fish are high in the water swimming around, they're not related to the structure or the contour anyways, the cover. They're up in the water column, so they might as well be in a 15-foot lake, and that's what St. Clair is. And so for those fish that are swimming around and here today, gone tomorrow, I think Mullins has a pretty darn good track record with smallmouth, and so I'll put Mullins on my team in bucket C for that reason. And he is a compared to my first two picks, he is a balmy 1%. So I'm going high percentage
High
there.
percentage, yeah. One singular percent, at least starting with a number
I
other
think
than
when I
zero.
clicked it, it went from point nine to one. Like I think I was the one.
I like that. I think I've had Mullins at St. Clair a number of times in fantasy, but like I said, for me, it's more just smallmouth prowess when you look at Joey Cifuentes. Obviously won the tournament 2 years ago. That's enough reason to think that he would do well for most. For me, it's when you look at it, I mean, he's had 8 top 20 finishes in the elites and opens over the course of his career, and 5 of those have been fishing northern smallmouth. I mean, I think even before he qualified for the Elite
Oh
Series, I
yeah.
think when you looked at what he did on the FLW Tour and then through MLF tournaments before qualifying, I mean, it was just his forte. He's very, very good at it. Obviously, there's been a track record of Arkansans just in general, like Stetson. I mean, a handful of them that have just done well up there. I don't really have an explanation for
Nixon's
you, but
one at St.
100%.
Clair.
100%. So, I mean, like I said, I don't know why, but that's certainly the case. And Cifuentes, just a rock solid pick for me in bucket C, despite the 14% player percentage. So, going up a little bit there. But moving to bucket D, this is going to be my highest percentage. I want to believe it's my highest. Yeah, by just a few percentage points. I'm going Jacob Foutz, 31.3, certainly the highest in the bucket from what I can tell, but same deal. A guy that's clearly extremely good with his electronics with forward-facing sonar, but just a very good smallmouth fisherman regardless where we go. I got to cover him on the water 2 years ago at St. Clair and just looked super comfortable. Looked like he was just having a blast. I mean, there's really no other way to put it. He was having a good time out there. So for me, I'm going with Jacob Foutz in D. Ronnie, who'd you go with in D?
I went with none other than Cody Huff, another stellar scoper, as we could call him, but has great finishes at Champlain, things like that. He's also one of these Ozark anglers in Missouri that spends time catching fish over deeper water, over out in the middle, and they're not always largemouth. They're smallmouth on the lakes like Bull Shoals, Table Rock, Norfolk, places like that. Just like Joey Cifuentes at Greer's Ferry, things like that. So Cody Huff, and he needs just what a uncharacteristically boring season for him. I'll say a 62nd, a 40th, 76th, 76th, 69th, 18th, and a 55th. If you told me Cody Huff's highest finish this year would be 18th and it would be at the Sabine, I'd be like, what are you talking about? So I expect a higher than an 18th this week for Cody Huff. And that takes us to bucket E, where I just need Paul Mueller to get it done. Okay, Paul Mueller, you got to get it done. Shooting it straight like the TNC podcast. He is on, the non, or he's on the needs to requalify list. He is below that line and is failing to requalify at this current moment. So he needs two good ones. Also, Kyle, if this was the end for Paul Mueller on the Elite Series this season, he has got to at least win this event to go out with a all largemouth St. John's win, an all spotted bass Lanier win, and an all smallmouth win at St. Clair. Got to do it. I don't. I'd have to go back and look, but you either have a super cool nickname or your initials are your nickname. Like that's basically it for people who have done that feat. So on the Elite Series or the top level back in the day, if they were top 100s, whatever, Mueller's got to get it done on smallmouth so he can have the trifecta. He's got an all largemouth, all spotted bass, all smallmouth tournament wins, and that I'm talking about St. John's Lanier, and if he got it done at St. Clair, so gotta have it, got to have it, and so there's a couple other gotta have it's in this bucket, no doubt as well.
Yeah, no doubt. Obviously, once you get this late in the season in Bucket E, it's guys that have struggled for the most part all season long. Obviously, mixed in a good one here and there from a handful of the guys, but I'm going Jonathan Kelley for no reason other than Northern guy. Obviously, throughout his open season where he qualified, just absolutely nails in those tournaments. Super familiar, very comfortable in these types of tournaments. 24th place finish in 2023 at St. Clair. Just trying to go a little bit lower player percentage for me in Bucket E. Obviously, if you look at Bucket E, Jeff Gustafson, 52.8, that is the highest percentage amongst any angler in any bucket. Obviously, more than reasonable to pick Jeff Gustafson in Bucket E, but I think it is a toss-up in Bucket E in some ways, so I'm going Jonathan Kelley.
Awesome. Well, there's our five-man teams. I've going back through mine quickly. LeHew, Robert G, David Mullins, Cody Huff, and Paul Mueller. And I got 87.11 is my guesstimate weight.
I like it. I've got Jay Przekurat, Luke Palmer, Joey Cifuentes, Jacob Foutz, and Jonathan Kelley.